A lot of people come into federal construction with this idea that they can be a middleman. They think they're going to win a federal contract, hand everything off to somebody else who performs the entire job, and just sit in the middle collecting money. And depending on how you structure things, that idea can either be perfectly legal or it can put you in serious trouble. So let's break this down the right way. In federal construction, the prime contractor is not required to swing a hammer. My entire career was built on understanding that distinction. My work was project management. My work was scheduling. My work was safety. My work was daily reporting. My work was FAR compliance. My work was quality control. My work was communication with the procurement official. My work was documentation, billing, oversight, and delivery. That is real self-performance in the federal world. Now, yes, subcontractors can perform the physical labor, and on most federal jobs they do. That is normal and fully expected. Where things fall apart is when the prime doesn't perform any prime responsibilities, when the prime becomes nothing more than a name on paper while someone else runs the entire operation. That's when you cross into what's called a pass-through scheme, and that's illegal. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine a small business wins a federal construction project, something like repaving a parking lot, removing old pavement, hauling it away, pouring new concrete, striping the lines, repainting symbols, reinstalling handicap signs. A procurement official awards the job and the small business is now the prime. Here's the wrong approach. The prime checks out. They don't manage anything. They don't oversee the work. They don't communicate with the government. They don't run compliance. They don't handle reporting. Another company runs the entire project while the prime acts like a mailbox. That is not subcontractor support. That is a pass-through. Now, let me give you a real example where this actually happened, because this is exactly how people get in trouble. There was a company called MCC Construction. Over several years, MCC arranged for two 8A companies to win set-aside federal contracts on paper, but MCC, a larger company, performed all the work and all the prime-level responsibilities behind the scenes. Those 8A firms were just fronts. On the books, it looked like they were running the projects. In reality, MCC controlled everything. They completed 27 contracts this way, totaling roughly $70 million. When the SBA investigated the relationship, people involved made false statements and tried to cover it up. That's when everything collapsed. The consequences? More than $1.7 million in penalties and forfeiture, personal restitution, and prison time for individuals involved. This is not a technical violation. This is a pass-through scheme, and the government takes it extremely seriously. So let's talk about the right way to operate, the legal way, the normal way, the way real federal builders run their companies. The prime says, I'm going to run this contract. I'm going to perform my responsibilities as the prime. Subcontractors will perform the field labor under my management. That is legal. That is how federal construction works. Now let's talk about the limitations on subcontracting, because this is where most people get confused. These rules only apply under specific conditions. For most small business set-asides over $150,000, the limitations on subcontracting apply. For 8A, HubZone, SDVOSB, and WOSB set-asides, they can apply at any dollar value. Here are the actual percentages. Service contracts, at least 50% of the personnel cost must be performed by the prime supply contracts, at least 50% of the manufacturing effort. General construction, at least 15% of the labor cost. Specialty construction, at least 25% of the labor cost. And here's the part most people misunderstand. Prime level labor counts. Your project management counts, your quality control counts, your safety counts, your scheduling counts, your administrative work counts, your compliance labor counts. Self-performance does not mean swinging a hammer. It means running the contract. There's also something called the similarly situated entity rule. All this means is if a contract is awarded under a specific set-aside, like WOSB, and the prime uses a subcontractor with that same certification, then the government treats that subcontractor's contribution as if the prime performed it for purposes of meeting the limitations on subcontracting. That's it. There's nothing mysterious about it. Now, here's the bottom line. If your idea of being a middleman is win the contract, hand off 100%, disappear, and collect money that is illegal, but if your idea is win the contract, run the contract, fulfill your responsibilities as the prime, bring in subcontractors to perform the field labor, oversee the job, ensure compliance, deliver the finished work that is completely legal. That is normal. That is how real federal construction is done. This is how successful federal builders operate. And if you want help doing this the right way, understanding prime responsibilities, using subcontractors properly, knowing when the limitations on subcontracting apply, and building systems that protect you, schedule a Zoom with me. Go to GCExperts.com/Zoom. I'll see you in the next one.